everyone, my name is Dr. Ray Pastor, and today what I'm going to do is I'm going to review a cool technology from the 80s, the Nintendo Power Glove. For those of you that don't know what the Power Glove is, or for those of you that are listening, not watching, the Power Glove, and I'm holding it up here, is a rubber, almost robotic looking glove that you wore on your right hand that could be controlled from your hand. And it had a remote control on it similar to a Nintendo remote on it. And it would go on your right hand and allow you to control your video games. It had a sensor that you hooked up to your TV and they communicated with one another. It was wired, it was not wireless, but it did allow you to almost feel like you were, interacting with your Nintendo. It was one of the first, really augmented reality type of things. This was invented in the 80s. So it came out in 1989. It was created by a company called AGE, but it was released under the Nintendo name. So it was released as an official Nintendo product. So it came out in 1989. It cost $75, which was kind of a lot back then to get something. But I really, really, really wanted this thing. Every kid had to have the Nintendo Power Glove. If you haven't seen the commercials for it, do a quick YouTube search and you can find the commercials. This thing was awesome. The commercials made it look so cool. So I begged my parents for it. My parents didn't have a lot of money back then. So, buying something for $75, that's a Christmas gift. So I asked for it for Christmas, but you couldn't get it anywhere. It was sold out, everyone, but my dad was able to find it. He was able to wait in line at Kmart. One of the all-night waiting in line till the morning to get the new cool piece of technology. He was able to actually get the Nintendo Power Glove for me. So I opened it up Christmas morning and I was so excited. I believe that year I also got Mega Man 2 and Dragon Warrior, two of my favorite games ever for the Nintendo. But all right, so I got the Power Glove. Power Glove came with a cool game, like this glove ball game. I tried the game and it wasn't great, but that game was really kind of boring and never really made to be fun anyway. You kind of like had a ball and you threw it back and tried to catch it. The trick was it really didn't work with your actual finger movements. It worked with your body language, like your arm, because there were two sensors on the glove that interacted with the TV. So that was really where the connection was coming from. That game wasn't too great, but that didn't matter. I didn't care about that game. Nobody cared about that game. Every kid cared about one thing with this power glove: Mike Tyson's Punch Out. Could I use the Power Glove to punch the guys in Mike Tyson's Punch Out? They showed it in the commercial. It was the one thing every kid saw in the commercial. It's what sold the glove. It looked really cool. I mean, besides looking really cool, it worked with Mike Tyson's Punch-Out, which was a super popular game back then. Still really fun game. And every kid wanted to be able to punch Mike Tyson. So I tried the Mike Tyson's Punch-Out, and it just didn't work at all. It was really bad. It didn't recognize probably 80% of my punches, didn't recognize my movements. So the movement part of the glove was kind of a failure. It really didn't work well. It didn't really work well at all. It was pretty bad. But the glove had a remote on it, so you thought, well, I could still kind of use it as a Nintendo remote, and do some things with it. The problem was, since the remote was on the glove, you can only use the remote with your left hand. So it was like a one-handed remote, which didn't work well for Nintendo. If you're familiar with the Nintendo Entertainment System, you need two hands to sit on the remote. So while you had this on your arm, you only had one hand, which is really, really super inconvenient. And then, the movie, if any of you have ever seen the movie The Wizard, was about the kid video game. The kid was like a prodigy and wins the grand prize, plays Super Mario 3 at the end and wins, all this money and stuff. Movie called The Wizard, pretty cool. But in that movie, they show the Power Glove, and the kid goes, "I love the Power Glove. It's so bad," like the kind of the bad kid. And that made the Power Glove even cooler. it looked so awesome. Just a coolest looking device. If you're listening, please go look it up if you're not familiar with what it looks like. But it's just so cool. It looks like this rubber glove, but it looks like more robotic. It looks really neat. I'm really glad I still have it. Really cool piece of technology that I just love, but it just never worked out. It was actually discontinued less than a year later in 1990 because it did so bad after that Christmas when all the kids got it and tried it with Mike Tyson's Punch Out, and the thing was a failure. It just didn't work. I was glad to see, people innovating like that back then, trying to create things like that because it wasn't, it was what almost 15, 17 some years later that the Nintendo finally released a good system that tracked your hand movement, and that was the Nintendo Wii. So, it was always in the back of their mind. I know the video game companies have always tried to push things like that. They just never work. I'm so glad that we're finally at a point of time where things like this work. They don't look as cool as this anymore because the camera actually just tracks your hand, which is a little boring because this thing just looks so cool. But it is cool that we're at that time where we have this stuff. But yeah, the Power Glove was just really, really, really awesome. I just loved this thing. Thank you.